Hello and welcome to the Gorgeous Goddess YouTube channel. So the topic that I'm going to be discussing in this video is how to let things go. And I just want to say at the outset, this isn't going to be the A to Z guide of letting things go. There's a lot to be said about this. There's so many different ways of letting things go, but it's going to be just one way to let something go and one perspective that you can take on this. So what do I mean by letting things go? Well, if you've been on the spiritual path for any length of time, I'm sure you've come across guidance or advice to let something go. I'm sure you've been told to let go your ego. You might have been told to let go of an attachment. You might have been told to let go of trauma or hurt or suffering or judgment. Maybe you want to let go of doubt or fear. Maybe you want to let go of a part of your personality. Maybe you want to let go of an old sense of reality. Maybe you want to let go of a limiting belief, okay? And I've been in that situation where it's like, just let it go. I'm like, I don't know how to let it go. I don't even know that I'm holding it. So how do I let it go, right? So I want to talk about why it seems like, even though there's something to let go, why it feels like we're unable to let it go. We don't even feel like we've got a hold on it. And the reason is because what we're actually being asked to do is let go of a sense of reality that we're experiencing life through. Let go of an energy that we're in that gives us a certain sense of reality. But when we're in that energy, that is all we're experiencing. It's the only reality that we are seeing, right? So how do you let go of everything that you are experiencing in that moment? It's a little bit tricky. So I want to give you an analogy of a slide projector to kind of get your head around what happens when we are in a certain sense of reality and why it feels so difficult to let something go and to let that sense of reality go. So let's imagine that there's a slide projector, and if you have been born this century, you might have never encountered one, but really it was a way that old people could view their photos on a big screen. So instead of printing your photos up, you had a little bit of film, and when you put the little one single slide into the projector, which had the bit of film, the light went through the image and it illuminated that image and projected it onto the big screen, and everybody could sit around in their lounge room and look at their holiday snaps in that big setting. So so there you go. That's a projector. So in this analogy, the screen is going to be your sense of reality. Everything that's on the screen of this projector is what you're experiencing inside your being, right? Because let's say you've got some sort of low vibrating energy in your being, and let's say you've got a sense of reality that you are unworthy. Now, that sense of reality, it's actually not just the belief I'm unworthy. It's actually kind of like a whole, it's got many layers to it. So maybe you've got this sense of identity that you are unworthy. It's this feeling that you just cannot shake that you're unworthy. So that is kind of attached to your identity that's just one level of vibration. And then you've got thoughts that correspond to being unworthy. Maybe you've got thoughts that you're always going to be rejected, or you're never going to be good enough, you're going to fail at things, or you don't really deserve good things to happen to you. And maybe you've got associated emotions with that, emotions that emotions of doubt or emotions of fear. I'm unworthy, so I fear that everyone's going to find out that I'm unworthy, or that I'm going to fail. Or maybe you've got emotions associated with that of pain and sadness and, disappointment about yourself. And let's say that all of that energetically is one sense of reality, right? But all of that really is just energetic data that's encoded in your being. Now, it's only when your consciousness actually kind of like takes on all of this energy, and almost, if you imagine that this is like a bubble where all of this is encoded, it's like your consciousness just goes into this bubble and this is what it experiences. So when you put your attention, when your consciousness puts its attention on these thoughts, they can very quickly become your reality. And you're not only putting your attention on it, what happens is it feels real. Why does it feel real? Because you're real. You've got this real spiritual light, and light is shining through you. Energy is running through you. And that energy and that sense of awareness that you've got, and that sense of your consciousness that is always running spiritual light through you, it's that light that gives those, energies of unworthiness this feeling of reality. If you were to withdraw your light out of this, it'll stop seeming like your reality. Wherever you go to, whatever then you put your energy into, that would become your reality. But you see, when you're in this, let's say this example of that we've created, that unworthiness. When you're in that sense of unworthiness, the energy of unworthiness, that is all that you can experience in your reality, right? So this is why it's so difficult to let something go, because in that moment, it's like when this is your reality, you cannot find anything in that reality that is not unworthy. So how do you let go of everything that you're experiencing? Okay, so let me just, to demonstrate that a little bit more, let's look at that analogy of the projector. So let's say you've got a slide, this image of being unworthy, okay? And the light running through the projector, that's your light. So when we put the slide in, okay, the light going through the slide makes that appear real on the screen. The light of your being, the light of your consciousness makes that information that you're unworthy, and that energy that you're unworthy, it projects it into the screen of your reality. You can only experience what is on the screen, by the way, okay? So when the slide is in, that's all you can experience. Now, the way people often react is, what they do is, instead of going, hey, the sense of reality right now I have is an illusion, it can't be real, I have faith that I'm not unworthy, and I've been, I don't want to create that as my reality, so I'm just going to give this whole reality up. What people do is they look at the screen and go, oh, I'm unworthy. And then they go, well, how do I become worthy, right? And you might look to your society and what you see, where you see, what society values, and you go, right, if I have a good body, right, then I'll be worthy. Well, you might be totally different. You might reject that outright. You might go, if I'm intelligent, or if I have this much money, or if I live in this kind of house. What you do is, you then, on top of that feeling of unworthiness, you give yourself some kind of attribute. You work towards an attribute. You say, oh, I'm smart. I'm smart. It's like you put the next slide in to cover this one. You go, well, here's the slide that's I'm unworthy. And now you put the slide in, I'm smart. Now when you look on the screen, you kind of can still feel this unworthiness through it. You can still see it. It's two. They're superimposed on each other. It's like the I'm smart is trying to hide I'm unworthy. And you can still see it in bits, right? I'm smart didn't just quite do it. So maybe I need to be I'm successful and wealthy. So then you work really hard, and you create this image of yourself as successful and wealthy. And there's another slide, right? And now you look on the screen, and your experience is there's still little parts that kind of feel a bit unworthy. And, but you can see that you're smart and you're wealthy, and now you want to be attractive. So you work hard, you go to the gym, and you feel really good about yourself, and you put, I'm attractive, right? And you put that slide in, and now there's, that screen isn't feeling so bad anymore. But the problem with it is that if something out there, like let's say some of these slides that you've put in on top of being unworthy, if they get challenged in the world, like let's say you look like your wealth is going, or let's say you're getting a bit older, and that attractiveness is, or you is going, or let's say you make a mistake and you don't look smart, like even though you're smart, you don't look smart. It's like almost like momentarily that slide's been pushed out, and what's projected onto the screen of your reality is I'm unworthy. So that's why a lot of the time we get so attached to achieving things in life, because they're these slides that we've put on top of these really painful realities that are masking these painful realities, right? And so you cannot cover this up. You cannot. On top of I'm unworthy, it doesn't matter how smart you are, and then it doesn't matter how rich you are, and then it just takes one richer person, or maybe you can't afford something and somebody goes, oh, can't you afford that? And then you're back to feeling unworthy, because, it's like you need to displace that first slide. You need to let go of I'm unworthy. How do you do that? Okay. So we're going to use this analogy of the projector, right? So the thing that you need to understand is, if you've got a belief or something that you feel internally that feels real, that you want to let go of, the first thing that we usually do, right, is we usually try to find some evidence that it's not true. But that just isn't going to work. Why isn't that going to work? Because we're looking for the evidence on the screen, right? Now, what we're trying to do is we're trying to say, hey, this slide, I'm letting this go. It's gone, right? But you need to do that while the only experience that the only reality that you can experience right now is what's on the screen, right? So let's say you say, okay, I've been told that I'm a child of God and I am divine and I'm a spiritual being. So I know that I can't be unworthy. I feel unworthy. So then we go on this expedition. We go all over this the screen. We go all over the screen and we look and we go, we argue against this sense of unworthiness and we look for some evidence. And we want to let go of this slide, right? But we want to know first that we're not going to look stupid or the reason that we're holding on to the slide is because we're scared. We're scared, what if I really am unworthy? Before I let go of this sense of unworthiness, I need to know that I really am worthy. And surely I could find somewhere on the screen something that says that I'm worthy, but you won't, right? So that's the thing you have to understand. This is why you actually need faith, okay? Because when you're trying to let something go, you're not going to understand the reality of who you really are when you're in a lesser sense of reality, okay? There's no point in trying to find arguments against this, and there's no point in trying to, even let's say it's not unworthy, let's say it's a fear. Let's say that the slide is a fear, right? The fear will tell you this bad thing's going to happen. And until you let go of the fear, you're going to have zero evidence in your sense of reality that letting go of the fear is the right thing to do, because your whole sense of reality is going to be this fear. So the thing you need to know about letting things go is that it's almost as if you need to use faith, and you need to say you can't look for a sense of reality to go towards, right? You're literally letting go of what you believe and feel in this moment and what your reality is, having zero evidence, okay, that there's going to be something else that you're going to see, right? But there will be a new sense of reality when you let this thing go. But you can't look for it in that moment of letting go. The only thing you can go look to in the moment of letting go is faith, right? And you've got to have courage that actually something else is going to fill this screen. It's going to be beautiful. And it is going to be beautiful because you are beautiful. Your divine identity. There is a slide already there waiting, right? Maybe the slide's in the box. It's already there waiting to click in, right? It is the divine identity that you were created with. And it is beautiful energies. It is love, peace, okay? It's wisdom, it's faith, it's beautiful. There is going to be something beautiful, but while you've got this slide of unworthiness on and it's shining on the screen, you're not going to be able to see it, okay? Now, there is something else you can do, and it's kind of really cool. It works really well with this image of the screen. So, because imagine that the slide is a certain size. Now, what would happen? So while the light's going through it, okay, it's shining onto the screen. But what if you actually broadened the beam of the light? If you broaden the beam of the light, what would appear on the screen is you'd have the image in a certain area. Well, you can't see my hand, but you would have this box, right? That is where the slide is. But if the beam was really, really wide, it would kind of make this white light all the way around it, okay? And if then on your screen of reality, you had the central image of unworthiness, and on the edge, you'd have this white light, you actually have a contrast then. You actually have a part of the screen, which is your reality, that just feels pure and blank and pristine, okay? And then you can go, wow, before I've only ever experienced as real this box of this slide that, you know, for this example was unworthiness. But actually, when I move out, right, I feel what it's like without unworthiness. If you latch on to that sense of reality of that pureness, this actually can dissolve. You can actually choose then this sense of reality of this pure blankness rather than this slide. How do you do that internally? So if you can actually presence either the limiting belief or the sense of reality or the emotion or the fear that, or the even just, I'm just going to call it an energy. If you can presence that, if you can feel it, you're experiencing that. What you can actually do is just imagine that your consciousness, what you are present to and what you're experiencing is getting wider and wider. Imagine that you're getting bigger and bigger until you're bigger than this energy. You know, sometimes you have to go very big. Sometimes you have to imagine that you're as big as the universe. Imagine that you're as big as the universe all the way up to the spiritual realm, right? Or even into the spiritual realm, because this energy can't get into the spiritual realm. I've had to do that. But anyway, if you can broaden your sense of awareness, you're broadening that light beam, right? Eventually on the outer edges, you might feel this purity. Or sometimes if you can't feel the purity all the way out, sometimes just run at the edge of this thing in your mind. Pretend you're like running away towards the edge of this feeling. And if you run fast enough, because sometimes it gets bigger. I tell you what, they're like take on a life of their own sometimes. But you know, run at the edge of it, and at some point you'll run out of the edge of this energy, and you might feel this beautiful blankness, this beautiful pureness. And you might, when you're out on the edge of that, you might actually feel for the first time what reality is like without this horrible energy of fear, of unworthiness, or whatever it is for you, right? And lock into that feeling. And there is your new reality. It's like this beautiful, pristine feeling that's not being tainted by this low vibrational energy. You lock into that, right? And you choose that as your reality, and then you can let this thing go, okay? You can even imagine that this beautiful pure energy on the outside, or this beautiful emptiness is pouring into it and dissolving it. Anyway, look, I hope that is of help to you, and I hope you actually go and try some of these techniques and let me know what happened when you did and whether it was useful. And it might be surprising, because the last person I did this on was very convinced that this wouldn't work. But then they tried it and they said, I can't believe that actually worked. I go, I know, yeah, right, but it does work. So let me know what your experience is and what you think about this content. Thank you very much.